Today, we are heading to Valdosta, Georgia to talk about the case that defies logic and has kept a family fighting for over a decade. Kendrick Johnson was a talented athlete, a family clown, and a kid with big dreams. But on January 13th, those dreams ended inside a high school gym in a way that just simply doesn't add up. From missing organs to altered surveillance footage, we're looking at why the math just isn't mathing. This is the death of Kendrick Johnson. Hi, hello to everybody in the listening world. I'm your girl Cass. As usual, this is your boy Eddie. And this is another episode of True Crime and Other Shit. We are so sorry that we could not be here last week. We just had a couple of things that were kind of in the way and it just didn't make sense for us to record. And we will never just throw y'all an episode. We want to really work on it. So we're back here this week and we're looking into Kendrick Johnson. So before we get started, I just wanted to shout out to our listeners real quick and the people that support us. I didn't realize we had so many supporters in Virginia, but we thank you so much for the support. We love y'all. Secondly, shout out to Illinois. Thank you for loving us. Shout out to New York and Georgia. Thank you for the support and love, and always thank you, Lynn in Hawaii. She's been holding us down since day one. She lets us know that she's a big fan of Eddie's shenanigans. And also shout out to the home state, North Carolina, and the main city, Charlotte, for holding us down and supporting our endeavors. Thank you.
So, y'all.
You ready, Eddie?
I surely am. Let's go.
All right. All right, so Kendrick Johnson was born on October 10th, 1995. This makes him a Libra. He was born to Kenneth and Jacqueline Johnson. He was the youngest of three siblings, and he was the family clown. His mom said he always had everybody laughing, and he just knew how to make everybody smile. And he was super talented when it came to sports. He's one of those people who can just pick up a sport and just be good at it. And I hate people like that because I'm not like that.
How about
Are
say
you like that?
jealousy, envy? Yes, I am actually.
Oh
Kind of.
my
Just a
God.
little bit.
My brother is
I ain't
like
gonna
that.
get
It makes
mad.
me sick. This man could pick up a fucking hockey stick. All of a sudden, he's Connor McDavid. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just not understanding.
I'm about to say pick up a baseball bat, be Babe Ruth.
Like, just anything. Like, this man has never played soccer a day in his life, but I'm pretty sure, like, he would
He
be
could have
the
made it
next
work.
Messi.
Yeah. I'm
All of
about
a
to
sudden, he's
say
bending it like
MVP
Beckham.
for the fever.
Just over it. But so Kendrick went to Lowndes High School in Valdosta, Georgia. For those who don't know where Valdosta is, my dad always says Valdosta, Georgia is so small that they have to pipe in sunlight. but but in actuality, it's just right along the Florida Georgia line. It's a small town, but the high school was pretty big. There was over 3,000 students attending at the time. And Kendrick was both on their basketball and their football team. He had big dreams of playing pro football one day, but unfortunately, those dreams were never fulfilled. So, on January 13th, 2013, the school day ended and all the kids left for the day. There's only a few teachers milling around. Kendrick was supposed to stay after school that day for, like, I think a basketball game, which totally normal. He stayed after school for sports all the time, and he wasn't home at his regular time, and then he had a 10 p.m. curfew on the weekdays. So when he wasn't home, like right after the game ended, Jacqueline's like, whatever, like my son likes to run his mouth. Like she knew her kid. So then 10 p.m., she's like, okay, where's my child? I can't get a hold of him. But she's like, I'm gonna just wait it out. So then she decides to go back to the high school around 12, and she looked around the campus. She couldn't get into the building, of course, because it's locked, but she's just looking around the campus to see if he's standing outside under street light talking. And then at 12:02, she reported him missing to the police. And I'm going to say this again, and I say this all the time. The police tried to convince her that he was out with her friends. Do not let the police try and convince you that you don't know your child if you know your child.
Yeah.
They are not out with a friend. You know your child would never do that. Your child would never run away. So make sure you're advocating for yourself. And also, you do not have to wait 24, 48 hours to put in a missing persons report.
I thought it
You
was
don't have to
72.
do that. Huh?
I thought it was 72.
No, the first 48 hours are the most critical.
It is the most critical. That has been proven. But what I'm saying is, like, within police reports, I thought it was like they force you to wait 72 hours. Is that not true?
You do not have to wait.
Okay.
File the missing persons report. If your person is missing, guess what? They missing. So don't ever wait. So January 11th rolled around and Jacqueline went right back up to that school. She was up there by 10:30 a.m. She's handing out flyers and asked if anyone's seen her son. She spoke to the counselor and they said Kendrick wasn't present in his fourth period weightlifting class yesterday. So Jacqueline's like, not my kid. My kid don't skip school. Which Kendrick was a super responsible kid. He was always in class. He always did his homework. He had good grades. He was not a bad child. So the counselors actually agreed. They was like, no, like Kendrick's not the typical teenager. He's super responsible. We've never seen him skipping or doing anything like that. So they are also concerned. But little did Jacqueline know, at the same moment, something was going down in the gym. So a few girls were hanging out in the gym near the wrestling mats, and one of the girls had noticed that there was a feet with socks sticking out of the mat. So one of the girls thought that somebody was trying to play a joke, and they're just like, oh my God, stop. So then they realized that the kid wasn't moving, no twitching. If you're in there, you're going to get uncomfortable, you're going to move. And so she called a teacher and her friends over to help get the person out and see what's going on, because she thought that they might be hurt. The teacher grabbed for his ankle hoping for a response, and there was nothing. And the teacher said he knew he was lifeless at that point. So the teacher laid the mat on its side, and they could smell and see vomit and blood where the mat had been upright. So did you look into like the mat and what was really going on there?
Yes, and I found out so much information
It's
in regards.
overwhelming.
Yeah, it was overwhelming. I listened to it 2 or 3 times just to make sure I understood it correctly, because what they try to speculate will happen between the mat versus what actually. I can't say what actually happened, of course, because we don't have any proof. We don't have any visual evidence, because why they corrupted that. However, I'm going to look over that for right now. But they tried to say that he just slid into the mat. One of the things that they talked about was that, okay, a lot of times, a lot of the students, they put their belongings, or they didn't want to pay for a locker, or they didn't want to put stuff in the locker room, they would put stuff in the mat. When I was listening, I said, okay, that's something that's reasonable.
Yeah.
High school kids, that's something that we would do. However, it contradicted what the police report said and what the officer said when students said, yeah, but we weren't stupid enough to go over the top to try to reach in there and grab it.
The students were like, no, you take the top and you pull it
and
back
you push it down so you can grab it from the bottom. Correct. So that was one of the things. The other thing that I found out is Kendrick Johnson's wingspan was too long to fit into the opening of the mat
Mm-hmm.
where the mat is technically. So you're probably listening like, okay, what do you mean? So how did he get in there to begin with? And that's what we're all trying to figure out now because the officers say the only way that he probably fit was he was trying to reach his one hand in first and then he smudged his way in and he got stuck. And because he got stuck, that was reasoning for his death, which is explanations of why everything pretty much looked how it did. The punctuations on his face, the abrasions in his lungs, different things like that. That's why they all talked about, oh, those are why it came up, why his face looked so swelled when they pull him out of the mat. I don't know if you ever seen his face. I saw it back in 2013.
I did
It kind of
too.
reminded,
It
yeah,
haunted me.
it reminded
Like
me
I
a
never
picture of
forgot
like
it.
Emmett Till. That's pretty
Yeah,
much the
same
closest.
deal. Same
Same
deal.
exact deal. Yes.
And like this is the thing that really got me because I am a very overthinker. It's one of
Hmm.
my quote unquote superpowers. But I was thinking, I'm like, okay, so the Matt, 6 foot tall, right? Cool. Kendrick, 5'10" ish. And the hole in the mat I saw was about 14 inches in diameter. Kendrick's shoulders were 19 inches. Just his shoulders were 19 inches wide.
Correct.
How is he gonna squeeze in there and get stuck? There would be no way. The mat would fall apart or he would fall over if that was the case, if he had like tried to go in through the top. I used to be in gymnastics and I know we used to do that. We used to try and jump in to the
Yeah.
like the mat and it'll fall over. Especially if you're his size, like, someone smaller like me, I can kind of wiggle my way in there. It'll
So
eventually fall.
So you gotta remember when we talk about bats and we talk about in the gymnasium and stuff like that, there's probably means that it's lined up with different mats. So there's probably like two or three different mats that's lined up. So it's keeping it upright. I'll give it that much. Their theory, it kind of made sense until the students came out and said, no, we have common sense. We don't
Yeah,
go
but
through
you
the
wouldn't
top.
just do
Once
that.
that happened, I said that doesn't make sense anymore. Find a
Mhm.
new theory because this ain't gonna work. Kendrick Johnson is smart. He knows to go under the mat and grab it, and
But
this is something that they
also,
intentionally do.
again, this is a big man. He works out. He is a football player. He is a basketball player. If he got stuck in the mat, he'd be able to get out. And especially at the time that he would have been in the mat, say if he got stuck, because the police report says that his death was around 2 p.m. on that day. If that's true, he could have yelled. He would have been like, hey, can somebody help
In
me?
the middle of the day.
In the middle
Yes.
of the day. I've also heard, I think Crime Junkie said something about it. They were like, well, that teenage embarrassment. Like whenever you're like, ah, shit, I can't let nobody see me in here. I'd rather die. I just don't feel like
That's not
I've never
wrong.
experienced that. I was embarrassed about a lot of shit, in high school. But I think that like getting stuck somewhere like that, like,
There comes a time where it's like, embarrassment versus life. And that comes for anybody. Like, once I
just
know
seeing
I'm
anything.
in imminent
Right.
danger, like, you know what I'm saying? Okay, I can see and remind you that we're not talking about like, oh yeah, this is the last period of the day. We're not talking about like, oh, it's the last 15 minutes before class ends. That we're not talking about these type instances. We're talking about you're saying he was stuck in there at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, all the way through the rest of the school day that ends at 2, 3 o'clock. So there's no other gym periods. Last time I checked, gym runs all day. Then on top of it, you're gonna also have because if anybody that's played sports, they know good and well. If you have two gyms, you are not practicing on that main gym. That main
No,
gym
you're in
is
the
not
old
where you're
gym.
going to practice. You are
Hmm.
going to. So for me, the factor of nobody even seeing these feet stick out until the very next day is automatically ringing bells for me that that's kind of crazy.
It is weird, especially because so they had a weightlifting class. And I think that, well, in my school, the weightlifting class was always like in an area in the gym. So there was like a room on the side of the gym where the weights were. So it's like if people are coming in, funneling in there, and they're going back to that room or wherever it is, y'all didn't see nothing, which
He
makes me believe that he put him in there later.
So there's also like actual the coroners talked about that too as well. I'm gonna get into that a little bit later. When we talk about like the uncovering and the investigative and the people that came in and they talked with the students and everything else. I'm gonna get into all of that in a minute too. But it was crazy. But that's my initial thoughts when I first heard like, oh yeah, he climbed in there, and then their initial report was, oh, he was reaching for his shoe. Now don't get me wrong, the shoe was at the bottom. He was holding on to his earphones, like back in the day, iPhone
He
had the
had one
wire
arm
headphones,
up, and then he had his phone and his headphones. So
his
he was
phone and
holding it
headphones and
like
another. So
this.
he was like that right there.
Hmm.
So whoever put him in there was not dumb. They staged it to look like it
Like an
was
accident. Someone
exactly.
who may have been coached by somebody who has a father who is in a high position, allegedly. Allegedly.
We're gonna get into that. Go a little bit further. Let's go a little bit deeper.
So, getting deeper into it, let's see. So there was one shoe, like you said, in the mat, but then there was also one tucked beside his knees. So how would that happen? You know what I'm saying? And then also one thing that I can't get out of my mind, I've been like researching this case for the last few days, and so there was blood vomit, okay, and a shoe on top of it. There was no blood and vomit in or on top of the shoe. Almost like it was placed in there later. It's like somebody was trying to stage the scene but forgot how gravity works.
Also,
You
another
know?
thing is there were two, maybe three different pairs of shoes that were investigated inside of this case
Yeah.
as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and give us some information about that, and I'm gonna deep dive into it a little bit, so that way they have the background information.
So the red and white shoes they found inside the mat, they were by his knees. And then there was also a black and white shoes, and those were the ones that had like the vomit sitting on top of the vomit. So his mother confirmed that the red and white shoes are like his, like, nice shoes, the ones that he wore to school, stuff like that. And the other pair of shoes, he said those were the ones that he usually plays basketball in. And then, not only that, it's super strange that there was blood found on his hoodie, but there was no blood on the shoe. And but they said there was no blood on the shoe, but there's actually pictures of both. Like,
So that's the third shoe. That's the third shoe. That's the third
yeah,
pair
the
of shoes,
third
right?
shoe.
So you got the first shoe that was technically inside the mat. The second shoe that was tucked in, which is all crazy because like they only talk about there's one shoe for each one. Like it's not like, oh yeah, there's a left right for this shoe, a left right for this shoe, and a left right for the third pair of shoes. I've only seen one shoe for each of these. That's
Yeah,
something else that I just couldn't figure out my damn self going through this
because
case.
why he
But all
got
right, cool.
so many shoes and none of them match.
And none of them match. So now we got the third shoe. There's a third shoe. Look like might be
Orange
some
and
SB
black.
Dunks. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was the orange and black, or like it was not orange and black.
something
It
like
was
that.
brown. I seen a picture of it. It was brown with some orange shoelaces going through it. You can
Almost
look it
like the
up, and
dunks.
yeah, that's why I say they look
Yeah.
like SB Dunks. To be honest with you, right? So the thing with those were that they had blood on them, and I do not believe they were his blood. It was not his blood on those shoes, nor were they his shoes when his mom interviewed and they asked. They said, "Hey, are these your son's shoes?" They said, "No, this is not his shoes." So they're thinking, okay, you know what? All right, because that's not his shoes, that's automatically going to go into evidence. That's automatically going to be looked into. But what they kind of what they pushed for and revelation for was that, oh, so many people leave their shoes here it has nothing to do with this case, and the blood on the shoes have nothing to do with this case. So they didn't take it at all. So yes, they did not take that into evidence at
I
all.
know. I'm just like over here thinking, like, what?
Yeah. So, in a lot of the malpractices that were done, and when I say malpractice, I mean like everything that was done to take up into the case, like, oh yeah, you're supposed to take this into evidence. You're supposed to go ahead.
Oh,
We're gonna
oh,
talk about
I'm
like the
coming for
blood
that.
splatter. Yeah, the blood splatter on the wall. You're supposed to take that into evidence. They went to a private
So
investigator. Go ahead.
this is the thing about the blood on the wall. So they tested the blood on the wall and they said it wasn't Kendrick's. Okay. So whose blood was it? Because I don't think it would be Kendrick's because I think that there was a fight. And I think that it was the person who attacked him's blood. And they said, well, it could have been there for years. So you're just telling me y'all are leaving like blood on the wall, like biohazardous material on the wall in your school? Do better. And not even on top of that, they were just like, oh, there were 6 impact spots on the wall. So it looks like somebody was fighting. Like if you've ever been to school and seen a fight, that's exactly what it looks like. There's random blood spatters on the wall and there's multiple. And then they were like, oh, it could have been somebody who hurt themselves and got a scraped knee. Sir, denial is a river in Egypt. Okay? You're doing a lot. You're making too many. It's not mathing. You know what I'm saying?
I'm
Like
putting that one down. I'm
no.
put that in my inventory for denial is the actual. There's a
I
river
think
in
Nene
Egypt.
Leakes said that, and
It
I was
probably
like, yeah,
is, but
that bitch right. Like
I'm
denial
gonna
is a
put that in
river
my
in Egypt.
inventory. I'm gonna
Yes,
put that in
please
inventory.
use
Go
it
ahead.
anytime you can. And then here's also the thing. So if you're a police officer, you find a body in Georgia, each state law requires the GBI. Georgia has their own Bureau of Investigations, okay? The law states that you need to contact the coroner immediately. So Bill Watson, he was the local coroner at the time, and he said he was not contacted until 6 hours later. And police use the excuse, well, we were still examining the scene and wrapping it up. So you're doing all of this, but you're not calling Bill? Hello, the law states that this is required of you. So if you're breaking this law, which seems very important in a homicide case, what else are you doing?
That's not the worst part of that, actually, too.
No, we're not there yet.
Oh, go ahead, because I'm
So and Bill is frustrated because he said police are not willing to cooperate with him. He said they were not willing to talk to me at all. And he said the body had been moved and the whole scene has been compromised. Why? Because you waited 6 hours to call Bill.
yes.
What the fuck is y'all doing? This is just messy, irresponsible. And we're going to get into a lawsuit later. And Jacqueline was in every single right to file the lawsuit that she did. So, moving on. Let me, because I got heated. Okay.
It's
So on January
understandable.
14th, they said Kendrick's body had no injuries, only minor abrasions. And on May 2nd, his death was ruled an accidental death due to accidental positional asphyxia, which basically means that they're running with the story that he got stuck in the mat and suffocated.
Correct.
And hours after that, his family took the streets. They out there. They were like, we demand justice and we demand a further investigation. So they got Reverend Floyd Rose to conduct an independent investigation, and Lee Touchton, who was the lead investigator for the SCLC, which is the Southern Christian Leadership Council in Georgia. And this man was also the former local president of the NAACP. So they came to the conclusion originally that all of this around Kendrick's death was unwarranted. And he thought that they were jumping out the window. And I'm like, it really be your own people. I'm
Don't
like,
be shocked.
anybody can see that there's foul play here. So then they hired a civil rights attorney, and reviewed all the case documents so far and said it defies all logic, the rules of science, and common sense that a 17-year-old athlete would climb into a wrestling mat and get stuck trying to get a tennis shoe and stop breathing. Finally, somebody with a brain. Whew. He said it's more likely that someone rolled him up in the mat. So,
And lean the mat back up.
and lean the mat back up. That's how gravity works. That's how that works. And so paramedics also contradicted what the police reports say. You see, like, all of this, it's everything is just so chaotic and none of it's lining up, and it's giving cover up.
See, the thing is, everybody who's not attached to that city, state, or any type of bureau investigation wise said this doesn't make sense. And they said that so that's what really blew me, because like they talked about how I don't know if you read about this with the lungs. They said, oh yeah, well technically
Well,
if
I'm
he
not
was
there yet.
hanging, you're not there yet with the
I'm not.
lungs. And go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. I ain't gonna steal your thunder. Go ahead.
Sorry. This gets me worked up because,
Yeah.
especially like I was living in Georgia at the time that this all reopened. So I'm literally holding my TV screen and I'm just like, what the fuck? Because I can't imagine being a mom and seeing all of this. You're doing all the right things.
Now
You're
remind you, she didn't remind you. She didn't even remind. She was at the school, but she didn't hear about the death from
anybody.
nobody. It
She
took her.
overheard.
It took, yeah, from a phone
Sorry,
call, but
sorry.
also they called the sister down there to identify, like, hey, are these your brother's shoes? Didn't show her the body. They just asked, are these your brother's shoes? And that's how they identified that it was Kendrick Johnson. They asked the sister, is these your brother's shoes? They didn't even let her see him, which, to be honest, I seen that picture. Like I said, that's graphic. She probably didn't need to see it. That's a very
She should have
haunting
never have
image.
been asked anything. She's a minor.
That's a great
She
point.
shouldn't have been asked anything.
That's a
They
great
should have
point.
took her mother and father down there, and they should have identified the body. They should have seen his face and said, that is my son. Because what are
Yes.
you hiding? What are you
Yes.
trying to work around? What are you buying time for? It's not making sense. And then the paramedics, they said that Kendrick's head was outside of the mat, but the police report said that he was upside down in the mat, which goes back to Bill saying that shit was moved. And then the paramedics said that there was bruising on his right jawline, but then the autopsy said that there was no bruising at all. Y'all are not even doing a good job with this cover up. And then this is the thing that really just grinds my gears. This really jams my Glock right here. So, they end up backtracking. They're like, oh, well, okay, so, like there was bruising on his face, but it wasn't like bruising like that. Like it was caused by lividity. And if you know what lividity is, it is how the blood settles in a body when the heart stops pumping. So usually there is like slight bruising. Like, okay, so in people of color, usually we don't see any of the lividity in the face area or anywhere that there's melanin. The first places you can see it is usually in the fingernails. You can see where the blood settles, and you can see that the nail beds, they will start going dark. And then that's a sign of lividity. But bruising along the face line, especially when people of color, when we are bruised, we don't show bruising very prominently.
Yeah.
So, and Kendrick was not light skinned. He was like my color. So it's going to take something hard to really bruise
To make
him.
you really bruise up like that.
Exactly. And Dr. Anderson, he was called in by the family, and he said, I am not buying this autopsy shit for 1 second. He said the findings are not consistent with positional asphyxia. And he said that for that to happen, there would need to be fluid in his lungs. And he said, well, they said that the lungs were of a normal weight. So I want to see these lungs because if there's fluid in them, then that changes everything. But how
Yeah.
did he get the fluid in his lungs? So he's like, all right, y'all go to the judge and y'all get the ball rolling. We're gonna exhume this boy and we're gonna figure out what's going on. And so then on June 6th, the judge did grant the Johnsons permissions to exhume Kendrick, and 8 days later, Dr. Anderson got to work. So Dr. Anderson is scrubbing up. He's getting ready to go in, and he starts trying to take the body apart to find the organs. And he's like, whoa, there's no organs in here. Why are there no organs in here? He was stuffed and filled with newspaper, which I understand that it is normal during the embalming process. If your lungs and things are removed, if you get your organs removed, they will stuff it with like newspaper or sawdust or cotton to kind of.
Incorrect. Incorrect. Actually, very highly. Valdosta, yes. Yes. Incorrect. That's actually not a normal practice.
Yes, it
That's
is.
not a normal practice. No.
That's normal.
Valdosta, there was a private examiner who said
He said he's
no.
not familiar with that, but I know for a fact my uncle who owned the funeral home said that that's a normal practice. He said if your lungs are removed, he said we'll put some in the chest cavity so it doesn't cave in due to deterioration.
I was about to say.
But
She said that you're supposed to fill it with like something else, but she said newspapers and different things like
he
that
said
is not.
newspaper is something he wouldn't use. He would use like cotton, like something that you would use to like stuff a pillow.
Gotcha.
And he's
Go
like,
ahead.
but as far as like newspaper, he's like, that's a little weird. And so they call over to the funeral home and they said, okay, so I don't want to freak out on you guys or nothing, but where the fuck this man organs at? They said, we never got him. We never received his organs. We got him without the organs. And then he was like, did they ever say why? And he was like, well, I mean, they said that the organs were just too badly decomposed, so we just took their word for it. I thought y'all knew that. Did y'all not know that? And they're like, no, we had no idea. Where is this man's organs? And then that's when Dr. Gregory not Dr. Gregory Schlunk. His last name is so weird. So, but first of all, Dr. Anderson said that his findings were blunt force trauma to the neck and was non-accidental. So they got heated, and the
So
Johnsons pushed for a reopening of the case, and the feds agreed that with his findings, but couldn't reopen the case because there was no evidence of a civil rights violation.
and when it
Look
comes
for the
to,
damn evidence. Sorry.
we understand because this is a very heated case. I'm not gonna lie to you. This is what pushed me to like look into civil rights because it was like the first time. Like, of course, we all hear about Emmett Till. We all hear about different, pretty much like injustices that happen through history. But to have something happen like the Trayvon Martin case, then the Kendrick Johnson case, and they try to sweep it under the rug. All these cases just kind of happen back to back. So I understand the frustration that comes with it. One of the things I wanted to talk about, which was pretty much Vernie Fountain, the founder of Missouri Embalming School, he did call it. He said it's not consistent with the standards of care in the industry. Then Gregory Schmuck, who's the president of the National Association of Medical
Not
Examiners.
schmuck. That's
Schmuck?
schwunk.
Schmuck. I'm not gonna lie. I'm Southern. It looks like schmuck to me. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I ain't mean to
Gotcha.
mispronounce that man's name. I'm sorry. But you said I have never heard of this practice prior. So it's it's just a factor of like, hey, this is not a normal practice. Okay, cool. But to also have somebody who comes in and says, no, this is not a standard of care, that foul play is starting to be
More
incorporated at
probable.
some point. Like I gotta start thinking like, okay, now the whole city is involved in this bullshit. Like as a family member, that's how I start to look into it. Like it's not just it's just the police department here. No, it's the Federal
The
Bureau of
CBI.
Investigation is
Mm-hmm.
goes beyond way beyond me. Yeah. So
So on top of all of this, they're rereading the case and reading through all of this and finding out the blood spatter was Wald, and they're like, why didn't y'all test that? They're like, well, we would have had to test 3,000 students. You need to test the people who were in the gym around that time. If it doesn't match any of those people, fine. You need to test the
at
people
least
who were
start with
seen with
somewhere.
Kendrick on that day.
People
Basic
that
police
would
work, you know. If you
anybody
actually
who was in
like to do your
attendance of
job,
that school, that's not a hard ask.
that's still like
That's
3,000 students though. That's
okay.
expansion.
Well, when I say that, I mean because you gotta think it's not 3,000 students that are inside the gym. Who has periods of like what I'm saying you're
Yeah, so
inside?
like what I said, like
What?
anybody who was in the
Yeah,
gym
yeah,
around that
yeah,
time.
yeah. Oh, I'm agreeing with you on that part. That's what I'm saying. Like, at
Okay.
least start somewhere. You ain't starting nowhere, and you're just throwing all these evidences like under the rug. But yeah, no, I agree with you on that part. Where it's like, all right, you gotta start somewhere.
So what I think happened, and this is just like where it's going now, especially with the blunt force trauma to the neck. So what I think happened is that there was a fight over by the wall. Kendrick was getting the best of him. And I am not saying that they did it, but there were two brothers who kind of picked on Kendrick a lot. I'm not saying that they did it. Allegedly, this is where my mind goes. But it looks like he might have had two people on him. He was getting the best of one of the brothers. I feel like another brother came up and got him in a chokehold and got him off of his brother, ended up squeezing too hard or something and snapped his neck. And they were like, oh fuck. But Kendrick probably wasn't fully dead, and they wrapped him up in the mat and they were just like, oh shit, oh shit. And they pushed him away, and Kendrick's dying, throwing up, blood is leaking. It's not a good time. So that's just what I think.
That does make sense.
But the Johnsons, but the GBI still upheld their original their standing. They were like, oh well, it's an accident, whatever. So the Johnsons said the tapes of surveillance were not released by Lowndes High School. But the school's like, but we've invited you to come watch the videos. That's not the same. They are not in my hard drive, which means I do not have access to them, which is a problem. So the judge then calls over and he's like, release the videos. So on October 3rd, they were released. The next day, U.S. Attorney General and former politician Michael J. Moore stepped in, and he said he wanted to do a full investigation. There were over 100 people subpoenaed, thousands of emails and text messages that were reviewed. I think that the GBI actually pulled up to their houses and took devices and everything else. The biggest part of this investigation is like there were some inconsistencies with the CV system, the surveillance system.
Yeah. So,
So
well, oh no, I was just gonna say how like so what they did was because the case got at this point cases on national news. It's not just was local news. No, CNN
covered it.
had brought in a
Video
professional
and
analysis
forensic video and analyst. Yeah.
analyst. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. Analyst. So excuse me, y'all. So pretty much he came over. He looked at the videos. He
Grant
said there were
Frederick
four
is his
different.
name, by the way.
Appreciate you. He said there was four different cameras that showed the video like within inside the gym, so that way you can have videos inside the gym. Now, however, every single video goes dark for at least an hour around the I think it was 12 o'clock or 12:30 to 1:30, two
Yeah,
o'clock range. So through
which
that
looks like it's
period,
been cut out.
it's been cut out. So he said, how the heck am I supposed to come up with a conclusive evidence? But like you could see where Kendrick walks into the gym, but then all of a sudden the video goes dark. And all four of the cameras have no type of videos. Also, they are misaligned on time.
Yeah, so for some reason their servers do not communicate with each other, which to me, if I'm a principal of a school, and maybe I should ask my cousin if like he has ever seen anything like that. I'll report back on that. I'll ask him. But if you have a camera that so I think they said it's like there was a timestamp where they saw Kendrick go into the gym at 1:28 p.m., but they have him entering the gym at 1:09 p.m. That's a large gap of time that's unaccounted for. And it's because the systems aren't meshing or whatever, and it
Yeah.
looks edited. Do I believe that that's the case why all of this footage is missing? No. I think that Grant Fredericks had it correct. He said there were files that were corrupted that could not be viewed anymore. He said that the videos had been altered to reduce quality on a significant
Yep.
level. And also, this time discrepancy doesn't make sense because if you are having people's children in your care all day, you want to make sure that your cameras are precise as possible. And that's the thing that just doesn't sit right with me because, like,
I
why are
think there
you
was a
taking that risk? You know?
I think there was a 23 or 43 minute difference between some of the cameras,
Yeah.
from like the longest to shortest camera. There was like a 23 or 43 minute difference between those two. But like it would show the same exact thing, but it's
Mhm.
just one is, let's say, 1 o'clock, the other says 1:23 or 1:43. You see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
the correlation is just crazy. But
And then here's also the other thing. So when I was in undergrad, we had to do a segment on like the surveillance systems or whatever. And I
yeah,
know that certain cameras, say we have a camera posted up here. So that's like almost like a cone. So if Kendrick is being viewed here, you're going to see him there. But as he gets closer to the camera, it'll cut him out like he was never there. And I know that that is a thing, but looking at these videos myself, it didn't look like just a little skip in the video. It looked like this is completely missing. And there were also people that were in the background that just automatically disappeared out of the video at that time.
yeah. So the crazy part about it is with those videos, they show like a graph of it
Hmm.
um within it. So it's like the first video, it may have ended at like 1:13. The second video ended at like
But
12:58.
yeah,
There's
I
a
wanted
video
to
that
find
ended
that
at
video.
12:58. There was another, and then the fourth one, which is the most important one, because this would show exactly where everything would have transpired in. That one ended at like roughly about like the 12:48 mark too. So like
Mhm.
the actual stuff where it's like okay, 1 o'clock till really 1:30, 2 o'clock is what we need to see. There is no footage at all. Don't matter about time, desperation, or like the difference between the two differentials. It doesn't matter because there was no camera on at that time frame that when they sent the video over. So it's like okay, what are y'all trying to hide?
Exactly. So, and also there's no footage pointing to where the mats are at all. There is
Hmm.
no footage of any feet sticking out, nothing. You can't even see what's going on that side of the gym. So you're telling me that you have like all of these cameras in here and you have them posted up all over the school, but not this specific corner over here?
Yes, that's
Okay.
exactly what I'm telling you.
Okay, girl. All right. So then let's get into the so the lawsuit. The lawsuit. So
Yes.
the Johnson family then formed a case against the Lowndes County Board of Education. The lawsuit stated that they failed to protect Kendrick due to his race, and also they violated his constitutional rights. I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. And then you'll see why in a second. But they said that they filed the $100 million lawsuit. There were 38 defendants, and one in particular stood out to me. It was Rick Bell. He was a local FBI agent who had two sons that went to school with Kendrick. That stood out to me only because he would be the only person who had enough power to do that cover up. Am I saying that he did it? No. So don't come for me, Rick. All right? Because I'm not saying that you or your kids did anything wrong. I'm just stating the facts here and that it stood out to me. And this is all alleged. So, it needed
I
to
got
be
a list of names.
noted that
I got a list of names.
you want to go through it?
So this is all who is listed on the lawsuit filed on March 3rd, 2026. It names Chief Judge, and truthfully, if it says Chief Judge, I'm guessing that it's probably a federal judge. But Chief Judge Leah Martin May, Judge Sarah Elizabeth Garrity, and U.S. District Court for the
Guthrie?
Northern U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Georgia as defendants. The Johnsons had claimed the judges acted with a clear absence of jurisdiction to assist local and state authorities, including the GBI and Lowndes County Sheriff's Officer, in a racketeering, influence, corrupt organization, pretty much a RICO. So now they have a RICO that's
Racketeering.
supposed to be aligned with them. But those are the people who they are saying like, hey, you guys formed literally a corrupt investigation throughout everything that we've requested to make sure that this doesn't come out. All the correct information doesn't come out. So,
I
yeah.
agree with that. But I also want to make it known that Rick Bell's two sons, Brian Bell and Brandon Bell, they did not have the best relationship with Kendrick. That's something else that stood out to me. Jacqueline actually remembers her son calling after, well, before a game, I believe, and said that Brian Bell and him had gotten into the fight, which his brother says that they were just roughhousing. But this is how I know that they were not roughhousing. So, other witnesses have said that he pulled Kendrick's locks. And if you know anybody with locks, or if you have locks yourself,
Immediate way to start a fight.
immediate death. Now I have to kill you because you've touched my locks. And I just feel like that. And like, also, you say that you're roughhousing. Like, first of all, you're pulling hair. That's a bitch move, Brian. It is what it is. I'm gonna call a spade a spade. Be a real man. Fight the fair one. Don't be out here pulling hair like you're a little girl. That's first. Secondly, you see that Kendrick's getting irritated if you're just roughhousing. Wouldn't it occur to you that you should probably leave him alone? If y'all are such great friends, you be like, let me stop before Kendrick get mad, you know?
Like a lot. As a dude, in high
So
school,
you
yeah,
gonna
like
like your friend is gonna annoy you to the point that y'all get into a fight?
yes, that's as a dude. I hate to tell you, but as a dude, yes. But like, I also don't think they were friends. Like, let's start
They
off there.
weren't.
And that's what I was about to say. We were talking about two different instances. Even with my homeboys, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like how you join on somebody and you keep joining and you see they get irritated. You just kind of like, oh, I know I'm hitting like skin level. Let me hit a little bit harder. So for dudes, that's
But
how it
grabbing
is.
hair,
However,
though?
Yeah, that's why I say they're not friends. First of all, because like my
Because you don't
friend, yeah,
grab
we
your
might do a
friend's
flat
hair.
box and it might get a little rough housing and different things
Yeah,
like
like,
that. Cool,
yeah.
but grabbing hair that lets me know you are already enemy square one from day one. Like you won't really cool with the buddy. You know what I'm saying? So that's two
Hmm.
different things. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, like hey, as dudes, teenage wise, oh yeah, you got me. Oh, don't worry about it. We about to square up. We about to slap box. Like he would have said something like that. Oh, we were slap boxing. We were roughhousing. I'd be like, y'all may have been friends.
Yeah,
You
slap
said that
boxing,
you
whatever.
pulled his hair. Y'all not friends. You're not friends at all.
Absolutely. Not
Yeah.
friends. Not friends at all. Like, that was the part that really stood out to me. I've heard of like guys roughhousing before. I've seen it before. You know, I have a brother. I know that like that's something that they do. But I've never seen a guy grab another guy's hair. Even in a fight, I have never seen that.
Yeah,
And if
nah,
you
that's
do, then
that's
everybody
some
around
real.
you is calling you a bitch.
Yeah, like it's some real enemy. Like you're not. It's not playful. You know what I'm saying? Like you're
You're
not
trying to
playful.
hurt him.
Yeah. Well, not only hurt, but like yeah. Now you're just. It's not a friendly banter between each other. No, you're grabbing hair. Like you really dislike this motherfucker.
Right. But this incident, well, that Jacqueline remembered whenever they started talking about it, it caused the FBI to come in and raid their home, and they took their phones and the parents' electronics. But this man is in the FBI. Rick is in the FBI, of course. Like if he doesn't want them to find anything, they're not going to find it. So it really just kills me because then the news anchors go to their house, and their response seems so rehearsed. Okay, I am a theater kid. All right, so I know what acting looks like. And I also know how they train you in school for like police and stuff like that and how to interact with the media. I
Yeah.
know that those answers, I was like, they came straight out of your daddy's book.
Yeah.
They came straight out. Like they're just like, oh yes, there was no possible way or any way that I could have been involved with this issue and da 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 da. I'm like, you don't speak like that. You don't
I'm about to
naturally
say
speak
as a
like
teenage
that.
kid, no, and then on top of it, you gotta think he's locked in with judges. So even if because investigators they know they stuff, but when
Hmm.
it comes to trials and XYZ, you know good and well what they're gonna do. Their main thing is, hey, look,
Put on
what
a
does my
show.
child need to do in this situation to kind of get us out of this situation?
Give them the
Well,
old
make sure
ride
they
the
don't talk
dazzle.
about this. Make sure they don't do this. Leading in, you know what I'm saying? Here's what you can say, here's what you can't. So yeah, guidance was definitely given. It goes beyond the FBI. So I understand why they filed that lawsuit outside of just like the normal correspondence.
And here's the other thing. So the on the news they were like, yeah, no, like I didn't even see Kendrick that day. In fact, like I was wondering where he was. I haven't seen Kendrick that day. Comes out that there's surveillance footage of him walking side Kendrick. Looks like he's being a bother. That's
Yeah.
all I'm gonna say. It looks like it's allegedly that that's the money word of the day. Actually, y'all take a shot every time I say the word allegedly. Uh, y'all about to be drunk. But yes, it looks like allegedly that he may have allegedly been bothering Kendrick on that day as well. But there's just nothing that they can actually prove still.
So everything's
So,
what?
what?
So everything's what? If like you know what I'm saying? They can't prove anything. Everything's just
Yeah. And by the way, if you guys haven't seen it or you do want to watch it, the Finding Kendrick Johnson documentary is really, really good. I didn't want to put too much information from what I saw in the documentary in it because I feel like everybody needs to watch it for themselves to get a better understanding of what's going on. And you can see all the videos and things like that. So, Richard, I'm going to call him Dick. Dick Bell. Dick Bell and Karen Bell, they're the parents of Brian. Then they try to countersue the Johnsons for slander. But come on, Dick, you know how this looks. Like, you know how this looks. But then this is where things start to get really weird. Because then Michael J. Moore, the U.S. attorney who was representing the family, they resign in 2015, and all of his cases go to his successor, except for Kendrick's case. And then the second U.S. attorney that got Kendrick's case resigned shortly after that. That's a dick move, don't you think? Allegedly.
Yeah, you corny as fuck for that one. I ain't gonna lie to you. You corny as shit for that one. However, I ain't gonna
But
lie
am
to you.
I
I read
wrong
something.
though?
You're not wrong. And I read something else where somebody had got the case where it's like, I think she was looking into it at first and she said, this doesn't make any sense.
Oh, that
And
was a man. That's Ashley Polk.
I think so. That name sounds familiar. It
Yeah,
could be
the
so.
sheriff.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, the next thing I know, she switches everything when she gets the position. She's like, "Oh, I don't know. I looked at everything. It looks conclusive to me. This wrap it on up. Let's wrap this up. Like, we got to move past this." I said, "Wow, you switched up real quick once you got your position."
Exactly. As a politician does, because let's not forget what these people are first, and that's a politician. And also, just a side note, at graduation where Kendrick was supposed to walk, his mom did show up to honor his memory, and she carried a photo of Kendrick that would have looked like what he would have had on for his graduation, which I know must have been excruciating for her as a mother. And she asked the school if they could just say something about Kendrick, or they call Kendrick's name during the graduation proceedings, some sort of memorial tribute, something.
Makes sense.
But they refused to do that. So the Johnsons then withdrew their lawsuit, and then they started going for Judge Richard Porter, who's the person who presided over the case. And he said their claims were baseless and groundless. And so later that year, a Kendrick supporter, Bobby Worthy, he filed a complaint to the FBI and the Valdosta judicial qualification officials. And he said that Judge Porter literally fell asleep 6 times during the proceedings and was showing favoritism to the 8 white defense attorneys. And after all of that, his case was closed yet again. But
I ain't gonna lie.
my
Let's
girl
do this,
Jacqueline is a fighter.
and we're gonna do this right here. I feel like part two. Like I feel like this deserves a part two,
Oh
into
no,
like
I'm
the
almost
legal
done.
proceedings. Oh, you're already done. Okay, go ahead.
I'm almost done. Yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
the Johnsons aren't giving up. So they have poor Kendrick. Poor Kendrick. He has his body exhumed again to get yet another autopsy. And they find again that this is blunt force trauma to the neck, the right side of his neck, and this is non accidental. This is overwhelming evidence. Why are y'all still saying that it's an accident? Clearly, there are 2 autopsies that have been done, and both of these people are saying the same thing and saying that this was not accidental. This was on purpose. This is blunt force trauma to the neck. So why are we still saying it's an accident? And then this is where your boy Ashley Polk comes in, the sheriff. He comes in around 2019, and he spoke to the U.S. Attorney Charles Peeler and asked him to hand over any unreleased files. They didn't want no smoke, so they handed them over without any pushback. So then June of 2020, they decided that they were going to get a petition together, and the petition was reopened the next year on March 10th of 2021. This was the official reopening date of the case, and the Johnson family was sold a 25-second recording which sounded like an alleged confession. The recording said, "They are going to catch me anyways. I should have never done this. I was young and stupid. Kendrick didn't deserve any of this, man." Then the person starts crying and they say, "They're going to catch me anyways." Then 2 months later, apparently this was a cruel and heartless joke.
Yeah,
I
nah.
sold. I'm not sold.
The tears was good enough for me. First of all, I know plenty of people who are in jail because they took a plea deal, even though they didn't have nothing to do with the case.
Hmm.
So, how did y'all even with get this and then withhold it? Is my question.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But as far as 2021, it looks like the case is still opening. Is still open, but it just seems like the police are still gung ho and they're not letting go, and they're saying that this
Oh,
is.
this is why I said hold off on because they definitely had it reopened in 2026 in March.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, like this has
Is
been
there new
recently
evidence?
new evidence. I don't know, but the parents put in a $4 billion lawsuit, so that's why I was going to try to jump into. And we could probably just do like a quick little 30 minute. It's not going to be a full episode wise because they just, like I said, it's in March, so it's still fresh, new. They still trying to get all the evidence and everything, but I don't mind going through it and just kind of like deep diving into like, okay, what's the judges say? What is the case details on this? With it
Let's just
being
do
real.
a bonus episode, and then
Yeah,
we can take on a whole new case, and we can jump into the next case.
that sounds great to me.
Cool. All right. All right. So we're gonna leave it off here. We're going to give y'all a bonus episode, which kind of shows what's going on as of March of this year, and we're gonna do a quick deep dive on that. And I can't remember the
Also,
next case that's gonna be up next.
I can't remember, but what I was going to say is also if you got any of the cases that we talked about in the past, and you're like, "Ooh, y'all talked about y'all was going to give us an update," we're going to put all the updates on all the prior cases in like the bonus episode. But you got to tell us which ones you want to hear. So it kind of like depends on y'all. We're definitely going to give you an update on this one, but if you want another case that we already deep dive into and you want more information or up to date information on it, please put it in the comments about which one you want and we'll be happy to go ahead and research it and put it up there.
Amen. All right, so that was another episode of True Crime and Other Shit. Follow us on Instagram at True Crime underscore OS, on TikTok at True Crime underscore OS. You can watch us live and see our beautiful faces on YouTube at True Crime and Other Shit. Also, like you said, comment what you want to see. Slide into the DMs. I check the DMs every single day, so make sure you tell us what you want to see. And then also, if you guys have any cases that you want us to look into, we're also looking into local cases too. So or if there's like something that happened that doesn't sit right with you, we'd love to look into it. Our email is info@truecrimeandothershit.com. Weekend. It was senseless. It made no sense, and it was so random. And that that man was only 21 years old. He was still a baby. He did not deserve to die like that. They slit his throat by it was by a man who should have been in prison. He had a I wouldn't even call this a rap sheet. This was a fucking memoir. And he just decided to slit his throat in the middle of, I can't even remember that street, but if you live in Wilmington, you know it's where Crust is.
Yeah.
Like right across the street from Crust. It's like a little cute little restaurant type situation. But yeah, just wanted to express my condolences for that. But this has been another episode of True Crime and Other Shit. We will be back next week with the bonus episode and a new episode for y'all. And we might start taking a look at some of these cults and things. Y'all know I love cults because it's like, how y'all get in that shit? All right, y'all. This has been a Mercier BC production. Thank you and good night.
Nice one.